Yeah, so taking a look at 1 year on of this administration, well, several figures have been bandied, several promises have been made. So where are we now? Babajido Gunsowo will be giving us some updates in terms of what's going on with some of these figures, these political figures with politicians, Jide.
Chamberlain, it's hard to look at the numbers without smiling. It's hard to look at the numbers without smiling. But sometimes you also look at the numbers and you wear a big frown. What is important tonight is it's 2.5 decades of democracy. It's important to look at three things. The first is to look at the journey so far. It is then important to then also look at where we currently are and what the president has done in the last 1 year, and then to look at finally the numbers. If we take a look at where the journey so far, we remember 1999, that paper was 50 naira. A year after, we see what had happened to President Obasanjo. He had complained about the issues. Look at 2007 when President Yar'Adua came in. We're again similar to what happened in 1999, talking about a bright future. A year into President Yar'Adua, the headlines were nothing to celebrate. Going to 2011, when President Jonathan was elected, again, there were issues and he had asked Nigerians to pray for him. A year after, the headlines, bombings, Jonathan had to cancel Democracy Day ceremony. The APC measure then started. 2015, Abuja Agog for Buhari, 2015. High expectations like in 1999, like in 2007 and in 2011. A year after, it was about corruption and the issues. Again, look at how it was a year ago. The headlines, Tinubu takes the oath, and he clearly demanded for quick actions. Yes, he did take quick actions, but where have the quick actions led a lot of Nigerians to today? Here's where we are today. We're talking about fresh cash transfers scheme for 75 million Nigerians, even though the estimates are now pointing to 150 million Nigerians who are classified as poor. In all, what we've seen is year on year, each president comes, we're talking about a new dawn. The question Nigerians are asking is, which of these presidents has at the minimum met expectations? There are two things Nigerians expect. Either you meet expectations or you surpass expectations. And so the challenge is, will Nigerians look at all these headlines, how each president has fared after 1 year in office, and easily answer the question, are expectations being met or are expectations being surpassed? But beyond looking instantly, Chamberlain, we also need to look at what the president has tried to do in the last 1 year, especially looking at his foreign trips. And if we take a look at clearly where the president has visited in the last 12 months, starting by what happened when he came in 2023. Here's what you notice. Yes, there were more visits to Europe and the Middle East. We see the trip to UK, France, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, India. So we see a lot of his efforts in 2023 was not within Africa, was more within Europe and the Middle East. Clearly, he went to the United States to attend the UN Congress, but the trip to Guinea-Bissau was for the ECOWAS summit, was not really tied to business. The trip to Benin Republic was again for the 63rd anniversary of Benin. The trip to Kenya was for the African Union Summit. So clearly what we see is that for the second half of the year when he was sworn in, his efforts were more within Europe and this Middle East. But did that change, or has that changed in this year? Here's what you see, or here's what you notice if you take a look at what has happened this year. We see similar trends. Even though he's the president of Nigeria, the president of Africa's largest economy, we still see the president relying less inwards. Yes, a trip to Senegal, but the trip to Senegal was clearly not for business-related or investment-related transactions. His trips this year, the UK, France, Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, more related with investments than looking inwards. The trip to Chad was for the inauguration of the Chadian president. The trip to Senegal, again, was for the inauguration of the Senegalese president. And the trip to Ethiopia was to look at other things beyond partnership. So again, what we see is within this first 1 year, the president has done African trips, but African trips were not essentially about growing African relations. Most of his trips were focused on the United States, United Kingdom, in simple terms, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. That's what we've seen so far. But again, beyond these trips, beyond these trips, what Nigerians are asking is, especially the youths, is that how are they feeling? And one place to find and measure this is to look at what exactly is going on and what are the youths talking about on social media. Here's what you find, and clearly, please follow this. Within the last 1 year, we've measured which of these top 3 aspirants in the 2023 election are conversing and communicating with Nigerians the most on Twitter. We see Peter Obi, as at the election last year, 2,957 tweets. This year, within the last 1 year, he's had the most conversations on Twitter. More than 3,000 tweets coming from his official handle in the last 1 year. The handle of the president prior to now was the candidate official ABAT, less than 200, just about a little over 200 tweets. The handle of the presidency, 1,339 tweets. In summary, what we are saying is Peter Obi currently is tweeting at an average of 8 tweets per day. Atiku in the last 1 year, 317 tweets, higher than the handle of candidate Bola Tinubu that has 201 tweets, and clearly we see the presidency also trying to grow their conversations. But what this shows is clearly Peter Obi, who in the election was declared third, has the most conversations on Twitter. But you might want to ask, why is this important? And it's important for this reason. Let's take a look at what exactly and what are their followers really doing. Now, this is the impact of conversations, which we see that man in the middle seems to be conversing with the youth significantly more based on the results we have on Twitter. What Twitter tells us is within the last 1 year, Peter Obi's following on that social media app, more popularly known as X, has grown by more than 980,000 followers. Even though Alhaji Atiku Abubakar currently still has most of the following compared to the other two individuals in this picture, the president and Peter Obi. Atiku's following 5.1 million in the last 1 year. That has grown by 232,000. Peter Obi's following 4.5 million. However, a lot of that growth has happened in the last 1 year, 983,000 new followers online. And the handle of the president, the handle he used while he was campaigning, official ABAT, has seen a growth of 582,000 followers. So in all, we see that there's one person in the last 1 year, based on those that contested the election and came first, second, and third, one person clearly comes first when we look at the amount of conversation happening with youth online, and we clearly see that result from his following. But beyond what is going online, we need to look at what is going on ground, and that is the elections. We've seen elections happen in Kogi, Imo State, Bayelsa State. Within the next 12 months, we're expecting clearly in September elections in Edo State and elections in Ondo State. But I'd like to quickly talk about one of these states, and that's Ondo State. And that's because this is the first election that will be happening, first governorship election that will be happening in the southwest region after President Tinubu was sworn in last year. And Ondo's election clearly will be a proxy for what a lot of southwesterners are feeling. Why is Ondo also important? The governor, who was the former deputy governor, Lucky Orimisan Ayedatiwa, is on the ballot. However, there's some good news and there's some bad news in Ondo. The bad news is that Ondo currently has, based on the report from the National Bureau of Statistics, food inflation rate of 46% as compared to what it was last year. Not only is that rate bordering the governor, that rate is the highest food inflation rate in all of southwest Nigeria. Bad news. The good news, however, is the governor is working on 3 reforms. The first is he started what is classified by a lot of observers as the largest civil service reform since the state was formed in 1976. He's also currently engaged in a lot of youth entrepreneurial and skill development programs. However, beyond all of this, what he's really relying on to turn the tide in Ondo State is that he's saying that going forward, there will be a lot of collaboration with other southwestern states. But before we get into Ondo, we clearly are waiting to look at what exactly will the politics play out when the governorship election holds in Edo, and that should be on the 21st of September. Mark, well, here's what most Nigerians are now asking for. What is the future of the APC, and what is the future of governance in the next 1 year? And here's what I want us to quickly focus on and end with. If we take a look at the numbers, is the popularity of the ruling party declining or growing? And clearly focus on these numbers, 2015 to 2019. 2015, when the presidential election happened, the APC scored 84% of total votes cast in the Northwest. That declined to 71% in 2019 and to 40% in 2023. In clear terms, 2023 was the worst performance in the presidential election for the APC. What happened in the Northeast? 2015, the APC scored 78% of total votes cast in the presidential election in 2015. That declined to 71% in 2019 and to 34% in 2023, the worst performance for the ruling party in the Northeast. Look at what happened in the North Central. In 2015, the APC scored 59% of total votes cast. That declined to 39% in 2023. Similar thing, better performance in the Southwest in 2015, 56%, 54%, South, 8% compared to 28%. In summary terms, if this were a political campaign, 2023 showed a declining trend and acceptance for the ruling party. So these are the sort of numbers that the ruling party needs to be concerned about. These are the feedback from citizens. However, there's some good news. How much time does the president have?
Well,
Mark, we need to quickly focus on this because I know time is going like this. And here's what it is, and this is why this is important. The 2019 election, INEC announced the calendar for the 2019 election on the 9th of March 2017. For the 2023 election, the calendar was announced on the 28th of April 2021. The expectations, Jeff, Mark Chamberlain, the expectations is for the 2027 election, INEC will announce and release the calendar sometime between March and April next year. So in simple terms, the president's time is going because by the time we start here next year, the calendar for the 2027 elections will be out. Mark.
Well, quite a lot to, munch on, to mull on. Jide, thank you so much for that analysis. And it's very significant that you started by telling us where we were in 1999, 25 years ago, when we actually came back to the Fourth Republic and to democracy, as it were. So it's a very good place to start. I mean, the ruling party will certainly have its headache, and that will be their headache. I will take the part that is our own headache, which is how well our democracy is doing and how well it is serving us.
But I think that's a pointer for those politicians in terms of what the people make of their promises. Because all of this is about what the politicians say they're going to do, what they've done, rhetorics, promises. So that's why you see all those figures, they just build from all of those. So there you go. That could just be the figures which they will need moving forward to plan.